So real quick before we start, I wanted to share a few behind the scenes details here at Takes, trademarked, not really, by Jamel. These videos, for the most part, are not done with the script. They're not scripted. They are done basically off the dome. Now that is, I wouldn't say an exaggeration, but you have to remember that my job, right, the thing that I do day to day, is I'm a writer. I am a columnist in the New York Times. I spend a lot of time thinking about what I think. I spend a lot of time working that out on the page. And also a lot of my actual background is in public speaking of various sorts. And so when I say things are off the dome, they are. Nothing I'm saying is scripted necessarily. This isn't scripted. But it's structured by all the thinking and writing I've already done. And I'm comfortable speaking in this mode. And so it can kind of just flow out. But you can tell if you watch that I'm thinking about things as I say them, that I'm trying to calibrate and think through the implications of what I'm saying as I'm saying. Very occasionally, though, I will do a video that is basically scripted, and that happens when I write something that I just think can be delivered outright. I can just say it to you. It's written with an eye towards being spoken aloud, and I can just provide it to you that way. And so that is what's going to happen in this video. I wrote a column this week. Column's titled, "Trump Holds the American People in Total Contempt." It's about the president's corruption. And rather than try to figure out a way to rejigger that into a spoken piece, I'm just going to kind of perform it for you, deliver it to you. Let me know what you think about this. I've done it before, but I'm being much more explicit about what I'm doing now. Let me know what you think about this. And either way, I hope you take something from the piece. I think it's a good piece. I like it. People liked it. So, you know, enjoy. To say that Trump is corrupt is to somehow understate the size, scope, and magnitude of his corruption. It's as if you were to describe a modern thermonuclear device as just a bomb. That's true enough. It is a bomb, but it's not the truth, right? It doesn't capture the nature of the thing. It's not merely a bomb. So it goes for the president's corruption, which is so vast as to be a new phenomenon in American politics. The president and his family have leveraged his office to the tune of an estimated $4 billion. For comparison's sake, there was a time when presidents left the office almost destitute. They had to beg for money because they had none. Trump, though, and his family, Eric and Don Jr., Uday and Kusei Trump, they've earned $4 billion. They have received hundreds of millions of dollars from a network of branded cryptocurrency assets, and investors include large corporations, foreign nationals, and state actors hoping to curry favor with the administration. One such actor, according to a recent report by the Wall Street Journal, was Sheikh Tahnoun bin Zayed Al Nahyan, I hope I pronounced that right, brother and national security advisor to the President of the United Arab Emirates. Tahnoun's investment fund purchased a $500 million stake in the Trump family's crypto fund, World Liberty Financial, just days before Trump's second inauguration. Tahnoun has since successfully lobbied the White House for access to America's most advanced AI chips, with a large portion going to Tahnoun's own AI company. Or consider the president's pardons. Changpeng Zhao, the founder of Binance, a crypto firm, was convicted in 2023 for violating the Bank Secrecy Act. After Trump returned to office, Zhao, whose company donated software to World Liberty Financial, again that's Trump's company, so that it could start its own cryptocurrency, lobbied for a pardon. In October of last year, Trump granted the pardon, raising the popularity that Zhao could recover his court-ordered fines. $4.3 billion to the U.S. government as punishment for allowing criminal actors to use Binance for a broad array of illicit transactions, including child sex abuse, illegal narcotics, and terrorism. To tie the two stories together, in May of 2025, a different investment company, also linked to Sheikh Tahnoun, MGX, announced that it would buy a $2 billion stake in Binance using the cryptocurrency provided by World Liberty Financial. And this deal could net the Trump family up to $80 million a year in interest payments alone. Nice work if you can get it. Nice work if you can get it. Trump's other various projects, his monuments to himself mostly, also appear to be little more than state-sanctioned opportunities for graft. The president has collected hundreds of millions of dollars from wealthy donors and large corporations for his proposed ballroom, constructed on the ruins of the East Wing of the White House, his presidential library, and its triumphal arch. Tens of millions of dollars for the library are unaccounted for, according to a report by the New Republic. Unaccounted for. I wonder where they went. Who could know where they went? What could he have possibly done with all this money? Last but far from least is the president's $10 billion lawsuit against the Internal Revenue Service for damages regarding the leaking of his tax returns to the public in 2019 and 2020. Recall that Trump refused to release them, breaking a precedent going back decades. According to a recent news report, lawyers for the president are currently in talks with the IRS to settle. The president is suing the IRS, meaning his own government, for billions of dollars, and they're going to settle. They're going to give him billions of taxpayer dollars. For what? For basically nothing. This is tantamount to presidential looting of the Treasury. Little different than if Trump had just driven up and stolen the money outright. Regardless of whether Trump has suffered actual harm from the release of his tax returns, the fact of the matter is that it is a profound violation of the spirit of public service, to say nothing of his oath of office to the Constitution, to sue his own government for cash. And for his officials to arrange a settlement would be unconscionable. As with nearly all of the president's most transgressive moves, this shows just total contempt for the American people, taking us for suckers. Which, I mean, we did put him back into office, so, you know, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice.
Shame on you. If fool me, we can't get fooled again.
It is worth looking at the worst of presidential corruption before the advent of Trump, if only to dismiss apologists who claim that his bad conduct is not out of the ordinary. Despite the general reputation for graft that pervades the 19th century, it is hard to find anything like the personal corruption of Trump, even among Gilded Age presidents like Grover Cleveland and Rutherford B. Hayes. Most corruption was limited to the lower ranks of the administration. It was Columbus Delano in the Ulysses S. Grant's Interior Department who was accused of issuing fraudulent land grants, and Green B. Baum, commissioner of the Pensions Bureau under Benjamin Harrison, who accepted loans from pension lawyers in exchange for favorable treatment. Kind of penny-ante stuff, but again, not really involving the president. Looking through the 20th century, there is, of course, the administration of Warren G. Harding, infamous for its rampant corruption. Charles Forbes, head of the Veterans Bureau, was convicted of conspiracy to defraud the government and sentenced to 2 years. Albert Fall, Secretary of the Interior, eventually went to jail for secretly leasing private oil drilling rights in the scandal known as Teapot Dome. Harding himself did not appear to be personally corrupt, although the sordidness of his associates tarnished his reputation. Franklin Roosevelt gave his sons jobs in his administration, and Dwight Eisenhower accepted gifts for use on his Pennsylvania farm. Lyndon B. Johnson, who spent his life in politics, was heavily scrutinized over his personal fortune, amassed as an elected official. But as the New York Times noted in 1964, quote, "The records of the Johnson family enterprises and of the FCC have been thoroughly combed, not only by Republican researchers, but also by reporters for such competent periodicals as the Wall Street Journal and U.S. News and World Report, without turning up any credible evidence that Mr. Johnson has ever misused his political influence to enhance his personal fortune." To walk through subsequent presidents is to get a similar picture. Is there gross misconduct? Yes. Richard Nixon was forced to resign. Was there graft and petty corruption among other higher and lower officers in each administration? Also yes. But do we see anything like the self-dealing and naked personal enrichment of Trump and his family? We don't. We simply don't. Another way to put this is that corruption was largely incidental to previous presidential administrations. As the historian C. Van Woodward once wrote, Though all the presidents had allegations of misconduct to cope with in their administrations, for the great majority of them, the problem was a minor concern among many larger concerns. With Trump, however, the misconduct is the concern. You might even say that his corruption, like his cruelty, is the point. Corruption of this sort might in fact be inherent to the authoritarian enterprise. Look abroad to those leaders or former leaders who rode to power on promises of national greatness and the ethno-religious domination of minorities. What drives them? Not ideology or rhetoric, as much as their drive to steal anything that cannot be tied down. Viktor Orban's bromides on Western civilization were little more than a cover for a glorified looting spree whose beneficiaries, it should be said, included influential American conservatives. Vladimir Putin has spent decades siphoning Russia's wealth into his pockets, and populists in Latin America and elsewhere in Europe have been caught again and again and again with their hands in the national cookie jar. Trump is a type, one of many figures around the world whose nationalist, patrimonial, political movement is little more than a cover. And as his presidency begins to crumble around him, we should expect him to focus all the more intently on enriching the Trump family at the expense of the American people. Can we really say, for example, that this war in Iran has nothing to do with Trump's personal fortune? Nothing to do with the possibilities for leveraging prediction markets? Can we say that? Can we? I'm not so certain. I wouldn't assert it because we don't have the proof, but I also wouldn't disregard it. Here, I think we ought to heed the wisdom of the founding generation. To them, corruption was a poison, a cancer that ate at the foundations of self-government. A state so stricken was bound to succumb to political death. With Congress currently in the hands of a prostrate Republican majority, there is little the opposition can do at this moment to strike back at the president's corruption. But this may not be true for much longer, and when the time comes, Democrats ought to work to take back his ill-gotten gains and hold his enablers and co-conspirators responsible for their actions. The other option, to look forward, let bygones be bygones, and ignore the transgressions of the recent past, that path, that option, is a one-way road to ruin.